Howard's End, a novel by English author E. M. Forster, was first published in 1910. The story revolves around three families from different social classes in early 20th century England: the Schlegels, the Wilcoxes, and the Basts. Through their interactions and relationships, the novel explores themes such as social inequality, the changing landscape of Edwardian society, and the clash between the spiritual and material aspects of life. The novel begins by introducing the Schlegel siblings, Margaret, Helen, and Tibby, who are well-educated and cultured, embodying the idealism and intellectual pursuits of the period. Through their friendship with the wealthy and pragmatic Wilcox family, the Schlegels are drawn into a complex web of relationships and misunderstandings. The Wilcoxes, led by the patriarch Henry and his wife, Ruth, represent a more materialistic and conventional view of life, focused on practicality and financial success. The two families become acquainted when Helen Schlegel visits the Wilcoxes' country home, Howard's End, and mistakenly believes herself to be in love with Paul Wilcox, the younger son. Despite their contrasting worldviews, Margaret and Ruth Wilcox form a close friendship, and Ruth, who is terminally ill, decides to bequeath Howard's End to Margaret. However, upon Ruth's death, her family ignores her wishes, and the inheritance is not mentioned. Meanwhile, Helen becomes involved with Leonard Bast, a struggling lower-class clerk, after accidentally taking his umbrella at a concert. Helen and Margaret, concerned for his well-being, attempt to help Leonard improve his circumstances by seeking advice from the well-connected Henry Wilcox. However, Henry's advice to Leonard to leave his current job proves disastrous when Leonard is unable to find another position, leading to financial ruin and further widening the gap between the classes. As the story progresses, Margaret and Henry become romantically involved and eventually marry. Their relationship highlights the tensions between their contrasting worldviews, with Margaret's idealism and empathy often clashing with Henry's rigid pragmatism and adherence to social conventions. Margaret becomes increasingly aware of the hypocrisy and moral failings in her new social circle, particularly in regard to the treatment of the lower classes. In a dramatic turn of events, Helen becomes pregnant with Leonard's child after a brief affair. When Margaret confronts Henry about his responsibility for Leonard's misfortunes, he remains unrepentant, prompting Margaret to question the integrity of their marriage. As Helen's condition becomes known to the other characters, the tensions between the various families come to a head. Tragedy strikes when Leonard, upon learning of his wife's infidelity with Henry's son, Charles, confronts Henry at Howard's End. In the ensuing altercation, Charles strikes Leonard, causing him to collapse and die from a heart attack. The novel reaches its climax with Charles's arrest for manslaughter and the subsequent disintegration of the Wilcox family's social standing. In the novel's denouement, Margaret and Henry reconcile, and Margaret finally inherits Howard's End. She invites Helen, now a single mother, to live with her at the estate. The novel concludes with the hope that the characters, despite their flaws and differences, can learn to live harmoniously and bridge the divides of class and culture that have separated them. Howard's End is a nuanced exploration of the shifting social landscape of Edwardian England and the moral dilemmas faced by its characters. Through its intricate narrative and richly drawn characters, the novel examines the challenges of reconciling the material and spiritual aspects of life, as well as the consequences of social inequality and prejudice. By exposing the complex relationships between the three families, Forster reveals the interconnectedness of humanity and the importance of empathy and understanding in overcoming societal barriers. One of the key themes in Howard's End is the importance of connection, both between individuals and social classes. The Schlegels, Wilcoxes, and Basts each represent different aspects of Edwardian society, and their relationships with one another underscore the need for empathy and understanding in a rapidly changing world. By bringing these disparate characters together, Forster suggests that true progress can only be achieved through a mutual recognition of shared humanity and a willingness to look beyond the superficial boundaries of class and social convention. Another significant theme in the novel is the tension between spiritual and material values. The Schlegels, with their intellectual pursuits and idealism, embody the spiritual side of life, while the Wilcoxes, with their focus on wealth and social status, represent the materialistic side. Throughout the novel, Margaret in particular grapples with these competing values, as she is drawn to both the idealism of her upbringing and the pragmatism of her husband, Henry. Ultimately, the novel advocates for a balance between the two, with Margaret and Helen finding a measure of peace and happiness at Howard's End, a place that embodies both the spiritual and material aspects of their lives. Forster's exploration of gender roles and expectations also plays a significant role in the novel. The female characters, particularly Margaret and Helen, struggle against the constraints placed upon them by a patriarchal society that values women primarily for their ability to marry well and maintain a respectable social standing. Despite their intelligence and independence, both sisters find themselves caught in a web of societal expectations and power dynamics, with their fates ultimately determined by the actions and choices of the male characters around them. By highlighting the struggles faced by Margaret, Helen, and other female characters, Forster critiques the limitations placed on women in Edwardian society and calls for a more equitable distribution of power and opportunity. The novel's portrayal of the changing social landscape of England is another important aspect of the story. The early 20th century was a time of rapid industrialization, urbanization, and social upheaval, and these transformations are reflected in the lives of the characters and the world they inhabit. The divide between rural and urban life, as well as the tension between tradition and progress, are recurring themes throughout the novel. Howard's End itself serves as a symbol of the vanishing rural idyll, representing a connection to the past and a simpler way of life that is increasingly under threat from the forces of modernity. In conclusion, Howard's End is a thought-provoking and poignant exploration of the complexities of human relationships, social inequality, and the competing values of spiritual and material life. Through its vividly drawn characters and intricate narrative, the novel offers a compelling portrait of Edwardian society and the challenges faced by those living in a time of rapid change and shifting social norms. By emphasizing the importance of empathy, understanding, and the pursuit of a more balanced and harmonious existence, E.M. Forster's Howard's End remains a relevant and powerful work of literature more than a century after its initial publication. We hope you are enjoying the content on the Library Channel. Our team is dedicated to bringing you the best book summary, recommendations, and literary discussions on YouTube. If you are finding our content helpful, we would greatly appreciate it if you could take a moment to like this video, leave a comment with your thoughts or suggestions, and subscribe to our channel. This will help us grow and continue to provide you with more great content in the future. Thank you for your support and happy reading.